So where to start?
How
about this? August 28th, 2005.
Yeah. Let's see. That night we were told that we definitely had to come back to the building to stay because we were essential personnel. And my grandmother, who had cancer at the time, she had recently found out she had cancer, said that because of her medication she couldn't take the contraflow. So my whole family was like, we're going to Baton Rouge. And I was like, okay, she can stay here with me. I'm going to go to the building. My grandma made plans to check into the Hyatt. And we had packed up, you know, as much stuff as we could. I had clothes and my three cats.
Did we have a dog yet? No,
we didn't have the dog yet.
We didn't get the dog till the dog was a Katrina dog.
Yes.
So we had three cats.
We had three cats. Sweet Heavenly Baby Lou, Mr. Boderick Jangles, and Bingo.
And we had them all up in the studio. Mm-hmm. So the studio was connected to the New Orleans Center at the time. We were down there by the Superdome. And so your grandmother stayed in a hotel room.
Yeah, she stayed in the Hyatt.
Which was connected indoors to where we were at the radio station.
Yeah, so I got all her stuff together, you know, with her and dropped her off. And I kept thinking the whole time that, oh my gosh, it is so hot, like, because she couldn't carry all of her stuff. So, you know, we got her in her room, and then I went to the car and unloaded it, and nothing was working. So I had to, like, go all the outside and everything else to try and go to the Hyatt. And as I was walking in the heat, I'm like, oh, it's so hot, it's so hot. I can't believe I'm going through all this just to go back home in a day or two.
So the next day, 8 in the morning or something is when it started? I woke up to heavy winds. Now, we were warned that the building, the skyscrapers were designed to shake. Mm-hmm. to not shake, but to move back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's normal and it's safe. And we were like, okay. But when I woke up to the storm, several things about a hurricane that people who have never sat in the middle of a hurricane may not know. One, if you're in a skyscraper, the wind is hitting on one side and is almost completely calm on the other side of the building.
Yeah.
Two, the glass doesn't shatter.
No, it just kind of slowly cracks.
We were able to rope doors shut and see through the studio windows to the exterior windows, and we would watch. And the windows would just little crack, and then it would just fall.
Yeah. It was actually really boring, and
after 2 hours of the 4 hours that Katrina was actually in New Orleans, I took a nap because it got boring.
Yeah, it did get pretty boring.
WWL was still on the air. Mm-hmm. Everybody else had moved over to news, and they were doing the show. And at first they were doing it in the studio, but as the windows were cracking, I remember distinctly Garland Robinette with a wired mic.
Sitting in the hallway.
He was crouched down in the hallway doing his show.
Yeah.
And at one point, the wind from the outside, since the windows were breaking, swooped the door open, and he, like, ducked.
Yeah.
Instinctively in the middle of the show.
Yeah, I do remember that. Him sitting in a chair. I mean, a chair much like this one, just out in the hallway with the microphone.
So if memory serves, the storm ended around noon, and it was calm. People would go outside. I mean, as far as we were concerned, there was damage everywhere, but that was it. It was over. I mean, because we had heard a levee had breached during the storm, but we're like, okay, I guess, all right, there's damage, but it's not the end of the world. Everything's still standing. Okay. We actually, since we had nothing else to do, and we really wanted to be on the radio side, because when the power went out and the generators kicked in, to preserve the gas for the generators, they only had the generators working for the radio side of our
building.
Office building. So the office side, where we had all the camp set, had no lights and no air. No. So we were like, anything to get into the radio station. So we were answering phones at the time for WWL, and I think we both remember getting calls from people that evening. Yeah. We think everything is done. Aaron Broussard, I believe, has already come on and said, in a week, everybody can come back.
Yeah.
And people are saying, hey, it flooded down here and the water's rising. What happened? And we're like, probably a truck just went by or something.
Yeah, we didn't know. I remember I was answering the phone because I had an overnight shift. And it was the middle of the night, and I was answering the phone, and somebody called me and was like, I think I have to get on my roof. And I was like, why?
And I remember that next morning, that was August 30th, the
Mhm.
morning, walking out, looking out of the windows of the Dominion Tower by the Superdome, and just seeing water
Just coming in waves.
well, coming down the street, and there was no water on the street at this point downtown
Yeah.
by the Superdome, and just seeing the first bits of water coming down the street, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, those people weren't kidding."
Yeah.
The water was rising,
Yeah.
and now it's here.
And our station vehicles were parked outside of the Superdome, like downstairs on the street. And it was like you would stare out the window. We saw the water, and the water just rolled in. We saw the water just rolling in. And so when you walked away from the window, when you'd come back, you'd see like a little bit of the tire was underwater. You walk away, come back, more of the tire was underwater. And
yeah, we figured we had more time. It took this long for the water to get downtown from the night before. We figured it had a little bit more time. About an hour later, some emergency personnel informed everybody in the building that the building wasn't going to be safe and we'd have to leave.
yeah,
And we still thought we had time, but then an hour later, we go look out again, and it's 2 feet of water.
yeah,
And we have to leave. We didn't know what we were going to do. At the time, we didn't know what was going on at the Superdome. We were considering going to the Superdome because we didn't know. We had compact cars. We didn't know how to get out.
yeah,
And we didn't know how to get to. We wanted to get to the Crescent City Connection. We didn't know how. In fact, at the time, somebody told us there was an entrance to the Crescent City Connection behind New Orleans Arena. I didn't believe them because I had never heard of it before.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it before. But then we got a call from. Where was Dave Cohen, the Jefferson Parish Emergency Facility,
yeah,
saying don't go to the Superdome because he had gotten some rumblings of what was going on at the Superdome. Just whatever you do, don't go there. If our boss Mike at the time did not have an SUV, I don't know what we would have done.
No, because we both had Corollas, so
And
we couldn't.
If we would have left 5 minutes later, I don't know what we would have done because by the time we got out with Mike's SUV, the water was 3 or 4 feet. The parking garage was shut down. We had to, me and Mike had to manually push the metal gate up and hold it up while T drove the car under it. And then slowly with me, you, Mike,
My grandma.
your grandma, 3 cats,
Well, my 3 cats, Mike's 2 cats.
and our friend Neil, we had to go through. We could see. We didn't know anything. We didn't know this was a national story yet, but we could see people at the Superdome. So the car is wading through this water, and I remember thinking, like, if that person was wrong, like I thought he was, and there's no entrance to the Crescent City Connection behind the New Orleans Arena, we are done. We have to get out of this car and just wade somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't hit me for a while how much danger we were in.
Yeah.
But there was an entrance to the Crescent City Connection behind the New Orleans Arena, and oh god, how much of a sigh of relief did we breathe when we got above that water,
I know.
up on that ramp.
Yeah. We were so happy, and we were like, we made it, and we got to Baton Rouge by, going through the West Bank, which I didn't even know you could do.
Well, let's not forget that on the Crescent City Connection, going over the river, we encountered a military vehicle coming the wrong way. I guess they assumed nobody was going to be coming down the road.
Yeah.
And we almost had a head-on collision with a big military vehicle. Then we got there. We had been given directions to take to the West Bank to where to get back onto I-10 to get to Baton Rouge. We had to drive on the wrong side for a long time because the trees were down on the right side of the road. Then there was a state trooper who
almost didn't want to let us
did
onto
not.
Yeah.
He did not know what was going on, and he just was like, "My orders are don't let anybody through." And we're like, "If we go back, we have no place."
Yeah.
So our crazy boss Mike got out and.
My grandmother was so scared. She was like, Mike is going to get arrested.
I thought he was going to get shot, but
Yeah.
but I guess his crazy eyes, the state trooper was like, "Look, you're on your own if you go past, but fine." And we went past, and there was nothing stopping us from there. And we had a straight shot to Baton Rouge from there. I remember, I think I slept about 12 hours when we got to Baton Rouge.
I was so tired. We went to, I remember the first thing I did because we had to leave so fast. I had to leave all of my clothes, my purse, my ID, everything. And the first thing I did was my aunt took me to Walmart, and I had $20 that my mom gave me, and I bought some underwear. And I remember I finally took a shower, and I put the underwear on, and they were about 4 sizes too big, because I was like so out of it that I didn't even realize that I had picked up. So for a couple days, longer than a couple days, I was walking around in giant underwear.
Well, I just remember, you know, after sleeping for about 12 hours when we got to Baton Rouge, I just remember that was the first time I saw on TV. There was a shot of the Superdome right where we left. It looked like it was a tape of where we were, and I'm like, we are on where we just were. Is a national story now. And then we found out it was worse in other places. We had no idea what was going on. We were at a radio station, but we had access to almost no information at the time.
Yeah.
And so when we got to Baton Rouge, we lived in Baton Rouge for 30 days. I think one of my favorite stories from the aftermath, just briefly, is the iron story. we still have this iron.
Yeah.
My apartment at the time, which was right behind hers, I had left everything how it was, including an iron on top of an ironing board. And when we got back, my apartment was under about 6 feet of water. I lost all my clothes, lost everything that was there, this giant TV, my couch, everything. But apparently the ironing board floated, deposited the iron on a high surface, then kind of landed against the wall.
Yeah.
And there was no water touched the iron.
Yeah, it was really bizarre.
And we used that iron for years.
We did use that iron for years. No water touched the iron, and I left a pair of shoes, and for some reason, before we left, I said, well, I can't take these shoes. I'm going to put them up high. And I put them up high, and I still have those shoes. I can't get rid of them. Those are my Katrina shoes.
So it was an ordeal getting back to normal, and it was weird how things didn't sink in about what was going on at the time. And you think back now and think, wow, we really could have died in several places.
Yeah.
Wow, there really was a chance New Orleans wasn't going to come back. There was a while where things closed at 5 or 6.
Yeah, they had the curfews when we finally got back.
I don't know how many cities in America would have had the patience to insist on coming back from something like that, because it was years. It was something that we never thought would happen, but New Orleans has now risen up and become stronger.